We're live, folks. Back. It's our third last of the finale series here on Get a Grip on Lighting, and we're joined by the infamous chairman of the Accreditation Agency Advisory Committee, now known as the DLC Committee. I didn't know, Greg, that an agency is actually an official term that describes like a corporation with a government mandate. So the CIA is an agency, the Central Intelligence Agency, right?
Sure.
So we misnamed the report like a bunch of bozos, but everything else in it is true. So I'm just telling all you folks out there right now that UL, IES, and DLC are not agencies. They're nonprofits. We should have called it something with nonprofit in it. But Devin Wall, who is the author of our now infamous report, available at nil.org/DLC report, you can check it out, is joining us to do a wrap up, but I'm going to go through a little bit of history on the issue before we get to Devin, Greg. And so I want to tell you guys, if you got light bulbs in a warehouse, light fixtures in a warehouse, you sell them over the counter, you sell them on the road, you sell them on the internet, the National Association of Innovative Lighting Distributors is your organization. So go to NAILD.org. And Devin is not really good at marketing, Greg.
No?
No. He's horrible at marketing. But I'll tell you, a lot of people think of louvers for lenses, and of course they make lenses. They'll help you out with any lens you need for a light fixture. Of course, that's their roots. But what I've seen from Devin is probably the most innovative manufacturer of LEDs, like specialty LED, like retrofitting an old post top light in a town and doing all sorts of stuff that you can't get from the big guys. You can't get from other people. Devin's got the shop right there with the boys that can put together all kinds of wonderful solutions for the distributors out there. And Devin just does a horrible job telling people about that, Greg.
Well, I was going to say, who needs marketing when you sell? He doesn't need to market. You talk to Devin, and he'll take care of you, and he'll show you. He'll bring you in there, give you a presentation, show you. He's like a mad scientist behind him. I don't know what the hell's going on back there, but it's always something new, something innovative.
Yeah, and he sent me some when we were working on some of the night preservation and darkness restoration stuff called Dark Skies. He sent me over a couple projects that I'm a lighting guy. I've been in the game for 25 years. I've done a lot of different retrofits and stuff like this. And I got to tell you, some of the things that he did, especially in that one streetlight application, spectacular results, Greg.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, really, really good stuff. So all you distributors out there, if you got an interesting lighting application and, it's not about ripping the head off and putting in one of those UFOs with 3 arms. No, now it has 2 arms. No, you actually need to keep and preserve the heritage element. Louvers is fantastic at that, guys. I don't know what their website is. Devin, what is your website? Louvers,
Louvers.intl.com.
INTL. I didn't remember if it was INT or INTL.com. Check them out. Go to Louvers INTL right now. In fact, you can just pick up the phone and call them because real people will answer the phone down at Louvers. Okay, and
Amen.
they got a lot of great people working there. They got the governor of Illinois works there. The governor of Illinois, Greg, works at. No, I'm just joking. Richard White is a real source of knowledge.
Governor of Lighting.
Yeah. Governor of Lighting, yeah. So, Devin, welcome to Get a Grip on Lighting, the third last of our finale series. And I'm just going to hit you guys real quick with a history because we're going to talk a little bit, of course, about our report, the DLC, and the future. I remember, Greg, going back as early as 2015, Edison report videos about the DLC mafia, skits at the IES conference where the Devin, I think you sent one of those to me, where the DLC was portrayed as a cartel skit where it was like a mob boss that was the DLC.
Yeah, Randy Reed wrote that article back then when it happened at the IES National Convention in Indianapolis.
Yeah. So all of this stuff that, Michael has a personal vendetta against DLC and Greg has a personal vendetta against DLC is complete hogwash, folks. Industry outrage with this issue long precedes the creation of Get a Grip on Lighting. Okay. And then episode 2 was Brady Nemeth in 2017. Then we had episode 7 with Tina Halfpenny in 2017. Then we went to their convention in 2019 and we interviewed a bunch of their people, including Tina Halfpenny, and we put some clips on the Wolf and Sheep's Clothing presentation, which is still available online. And then in 2022, I'm not going to say his name, but a very interesting lighting manufacturer stood up in the open session at the NAILD convention and started going off about DLC 5.1. And Devin, I believe he had just come on the board at that time. He was on the board of directors. And he formed the vendor committee of the vendor portion of the Accreditation Agency Advisory Committee. And Devin, we had one big meeting with everybody. And then people were saying, listen, I'm not comfortable with my competitors. There's a lot of issues with having all competitors in the same room and talking about things. So we decided to do a whole bunch of individual interviews with the people on your committee. What was that experience like, knowing that everybody else kind of felt the same way you did?
Well, I mean, the opinions and everybody's comments were basically all in the same. So, talking manufacturer, do that today, whether it be about reps, products, any other new technologies going on. We're always working with other manufacturers out here just to stay on the current trends. But, realizing some of these pain points is, the older stock or whatever. And, we've identified all of that and it's all out in the open. And, looking forward is just like that gave us as a manufacturer and inventors of products, what we got to do to get ahead of this and solve these problems. And that's what we've been working on ever since this has, been an issue. We're all vigorously working on having, newer technologies solve a lot of these issues. And that's what it helped us do, and helped meet some insight from other people and what the problems were, and, gave us more ammunition for what we're looking to, and, create better products and systems out there based on all these issues.
Yeah, and so we identified in these interviews there was different themes. And so you would talk to different people at these companies. Some of them were product designers. Some of them, were product managers. Like we spoke to the lamp manager of a company, and we spoke to the fixture designer of a company, and we ended up with 15 different points that I think that we laid at the feet of DLC's certification, and we put that out and we kept it private. And then, Dev, we started sending DLC letters from NAILD in private correspondence. I don't know if you remember that. This year.
Yeah.
Right. And we asked her the questions in that correspondence, and they chose not to answer those questions. And then we asked their vendor, D+R International, those questions. And he also chose not to answer those questions. And what was funny is the rest is history, because then we started releasing all our open letters, Greg, and all of our videos on DLC. And what happened, folks, was after we released the podcast, about an hour after we released the podcast with David Radulescu, the lawyer, we received a cease and desist letter. And in the cease and desist letter, they answered all the questions, Greg. Right? Like, why did it take all the way to a $10,000 lawyer or a 20, I don't know what they paid these law firm. Why did it take a law firm to tell us what the expenses were about? You understand what I mean? They answered all the questions we asked them in our earlier private correspondence. They actually answered in a cease and desist letter. That doesn't make any sense to me, Devin. Does it make sense to you?
I mean, we can't make up their minds for them. I mean, we tried to do everything, on a professional level with inside correspondence. I tried signing up to be on their committees and I never got any correspondence back on that either. So, I mean, looking at valuable input from me, based on what I see, operations and other vendors coming into me, I do see a lot of different technologies, people's, vendors, components going in there and talking, business with these people. I get a lot of additional insight onto what's happening in the field and what's happening on what's coming on the horizon. And that in the field experience that you get talking with distributors like yourself and the contractors that are installing it is how we solve a lot of these issues out there and make ideas and design better. And so, it's more of a learning experience from the people that are doing it, not ivory tower C-suites that are disconnected from reality or engineers
Amen.
staring at a computer all day. This is we have a different approach. Is that we're real people and we're out there and we're able to bring this valuable information to the forefronts of it because we're actually asking the listening, and that's listening is a hard thing to do these days because people just expect to hear something. They don't listen to what the person's telling. And I use that with my kids. I'm listening and I want to be engaged with them because they're hilarious and they make me laugh and fill me full of joy.
There you go. And so, you know what the what's interesting about um, you is that you actually are very, very close to the factory floor. I bet you walk your factory floor every day, don't you, Devin?
Yes, sir.
Right.
I mean, you guys been here. It's not that far from me either. I mean,
Yeah.
it's like 30 steps and
Yeah.
I'm
So
out there
you
watching the
actually,
guys build product. It's,
yeah. Yeah. And then you go over to your designers and then you look at the designers and you tell them to make something a certain way and then you go make it in your factory, right?
yeah. I go,
Yeah.
hey, we need an extra hole. I call my engineer. I go, we need an extra hole here. And he goes, yeah. He goes, just tell me where to place it. I go right smack dab in the middle, point
Right.
0.8 inches diameter.
Yeah,
Boom.
the reason why they
It's
don't call
great.
you back, the reason why the DLC doesn't call you back, Devin, is because you actually know how to design lights. Okay? And you know how to build lights, right? And you would cause them a lot of problems with their certification because you you know how to do it and they don't. And their organization is called Design Lights Consortium. Okay? And so, our association, Greg, we made the decision to kind of point out these obvious problems we have in the industry, Greg.
Mhm.
And we took a lot of heat for it, Dev. But I think it was worth it. What do you think?
Well, yeah. I mean, we just put it out there for everybody to see it on one piece of whiteboard. Everybody was talking about it, and that's kind of what we did is like, okay, we got to use this whiteboard to identify the problems. And now we've identified the problems back when the report. We've been working on solutions ever since that, even before that, going back to 2012, that are still in development and actually succeeding to come through fruition now. I mean, good things take time. And this is all based on, talking from people from every aspect, whether with their association with the government sanctioned laboratory to an offsite safety testing place to lighting designers. I mean, the local IES I went to a couple weeks ago down Chicago that we talked about were exactly everything. And I didn't come up with it. The lighting designers came up with these questions. And I have so many follow-up meetings after that. It's great just to hear and me learning more about the lighting design side can address that. These are all things that are real and happen on a whole ecosystem because it's an infrastructure based issue, not just lighting. And that's where you're coming at. And you got to think of every party that's involved in there. How do we overcome some of these issues? Is everybody continues to work on just to better the industry and the globe itself.
Greg, where do you think, like, obviously new leadership is needed in the industry. Where do you think it should come from, Greg?
It should come from what I always felt where it should come from as the IES. I really want those guys to take the leadership position of lighting. They are the lighting authority. That's, their tagline. I don't know if it still is or it was at one point. And that's who I always thought it should be. So I know we've had some good discussions with them, but I don't know if they'll get there. But I really wish and hope it does get to that point someday that IES is in charge of all this stuff, whether it's accreditation of fixtures, if we need that at that point, or just helping figure out what's best for lighting as a whole. We need somebody to, or some group to, and we've done our part in getting communication out there, but after that, now there's got to be action, and we can only do so much. So
Yeah, Greg and Michael, yeah, and nailed the smallest of all the lighting organizations in the industry, the smallest one, nailed. Yeah, we can only do so much for the industry. So, but Devin, do fixtures in 2025 is energy efficiency certification for LED fixtures, is it just interference at this point? Like, do we even need energy efficiency certification for LED lighting and fixtures and that anymore?
I mean, energy efficient. These things are efficient enough. Whether you go back, whatever, it's all about reduction of wattage in the first place. So the efficiency, sure, it helps, but I mean, I'm not going to get the old chips from an LED manufacturer. I'm going to always continue to get the next best thing because that's what's available. Once these guys discontinue those SKUs, you can't buy them again, and you just get the next better technology. And the LED technology has advanced, which has allowed for you don't need as much heat sinking out there. The thermal performance is way better. I mean the actual ecosystem of LEDs itself kind of handles it and wrangles up because you're dealing and just getting the best products that are available because you're always looking forward to put out the best product that's you can manufacture out there. And sure, everybody, the manufacturer has these sunsetted products that aren't out there and are delisted or whatever, but that's all donation stuff or whatever based on not being able to get a rebate. But our focus has always been being inventors and creating this new path and how lighting can be changed, and not even looking at it as a North American standard, but as a standard and what's out there globally. New systems that are out there that have been approved by ANSI, UL, and the IEC. So it's I'm not just focused on North America and the U.S. alone. I'm looking globally what's happening, what other countries, what Europe's doing, how they're going about standards where they have the EU Green Deal where you can't have adhesive in your fixtures. They're outlawing backlit panels over there just on the face of this e-waste and the consumer electronic thing. So let's build something where it's a global standardized platform that's reusable, upgradable, replaceable, and can be recycled cradle to cradle. I mean, that should be the focus of where we're driving these things and how we're going out there. But also, I also see a lot, and everybody's always talking network lighting controls, sensing technologies going out there. Well, some of these, and that's not addressed by these, rebate accreditation organizations, is that they're still allowing these siloed products. So there's a standard that evolved out of Europe called NR Plus by the DEC Forum, and this is you're rethinking lighting infrastructure and how things done on an Internet of Things connectability, where you're looking at multi-vendor interoperability for all things IoT. So everybody can work on the same system and easily weave in. You guys have reported, we listen to the Lighting Podcast Association guys. These, we know there's problems of lockouts, these siloed ways, and that's what Europe is always advanced. And it's time for us to look at this as an industry as a whole. Is we got to start adapting these things that aren't in there right now. We could have silo, but it doesn't. The customer, the end user, is always going to be
Hang
trapped
on,
into
Dev.
this
Hang on.
one
You
system.
you cut out a little bit, and you made a couple, like 4 or 5 points there. I'm going to go over to Greg to jump in because you wanted to say something 2 or 3 points ago, and Devin.
he goes. I know Devin. Once he go, that's why I had to write it down next to me. But to Mike's question, and what he asked, and then my thought was, what is the lowest efficacy LED chip you can buy right now as a manufacturer? Like you said, it kind of, Mike's saying it's already efficient enough. Can you get low efficiency LED? Like whatever low efficiency is? How many lumens per watt is the least you
They're
can buy?
probably about 103 maybe, and that's a
Okay.
2200 Kelvin, 70 CRI, maybe 80 CRI LED out there. So it's it could be high 90s. I haven't looked. I had an LED manufacturer on future instead of what they have now, and all this cool stuff I see developing behind the scenes. But yeah, I mean it's lower Kelvin temperatures, but most of the stuff is 185 off the LED module boards coming in, low 165 on some, your economical board types with less populated LEDs. But that's what it is. To increase the lumens per watt, you overpopulate the LEDs and drive them less. I mean, that's cost money to do efficiently, but then you end up with all these extra phosphors that potentially don't need to be there delivering the same outlet. So, ways of thinking about it like that, it's just like, well, where do we stop? We're kind of topping out all the high end, big manufacturer LEDs, topping out at lumens per watt. We're really not going to see that much improvement in the next couple of years. Maybe the next 7, it's going to go up to maybe top out at 240, 245. But I mean, at that, we've already got a lot of energy reduction out there. You're saving up for all these data centers that they're building up, but they need energy hogs.
All right.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think that's your point's answered. I don't know that you need it anymore.
Yeah, what I was saying though is
Yeah.
I get what Greg's saying. Everyone's saying, do we need to? Have we gone too far? I mean, that's my question. Is there a point at which there's an optimal lumens per watt, right? Is it 170? Is it 140? Because I'm sure that as you go higher and higher in lumens per watt, you're using more and more chemicals. You're driving things more specifically, but harder and different ways. And maybe it's not going to last for as long as it should because of that. And at some point, Dev, is it time for some standardization and saying enough's enough? You don't go over this. This is the optimal lumens per watt. And then that's it. And then we start standardizing the components. Is it time for that?
Well, you're looking at driver efficiency losses. You've got LED module losses. You also have, are you bouncing it and then going through a white polycarbonate thing that's 50% light transmission because of a high security abuse situation? There's so many different angles to look at this and how the light gets delivered and what the delivered lumens are for that application. That's why we love the IES, because they send us a library of books that you need a whole dedicated bookshelf on the recommended lighting practices for how to light up these certain areas and how you do. If they wanted a little more or less, that's a free range that the IES gives you. It's a personal lighting designers using that book as a reference to deliver what everybody's used as a collaboration of lighting designers and manufacturers and reps and distributors to say, this is what way to light up these areas, these auto repair stores, garages. Everywhere out there has got their own, based on the ease of doing your job, the better. It's got these war stories. You go in there, do a retrofit in some manufacturing plant, that the production increases, everybody's happier, the moods are going out there. So there's all these awesome benefits you get from just updating the lighting to a better lit atmosphere.
Yeah, but it's not going to be like the past,
do it.
though. It's not going to be it's not going to be a bonanza like the past. Listen, what I think is the answer is simply what we wrote in our first open letter, which is to stabilize whatever DLC does and sunset the whole thing, and just go back to having the IES. If a utility wants to do a rebate program, then with lighting, they should simply have to do it the old-fashioned way, which is an engineered rebate program where the applicant has to prove to the utility and the customer that they're going to save energy, they're going to have enough light, they're going to and then you remember those rebates, Greg, where you'd have to do the engineering on it?
Oh,
and
yeah,
then
for sure.
You'd have to send the utility representative the certificate of recycling for the fluorescent tubes, and if there was PCB ballasts, and you had to prove that the client paid for the project. And so that was true conservation demand management. So I think we should just go back to the pre-2014 time, where if utilities want to do rebate programs, they have to be engineered, and you have to allow lighting people to compete with their creativity, with their fixtures and how they design them. And we don't need this energy efficiency product certification anymore, Greg. It's worthless to us.
Yeah, I think that's the point of where we're at, and how we need to move forward and figure out a plan. And the big concern is how and if and will. We don't know.
Well, we just need people to resign and walk away from or just listen to the lighting industry, what it's telling you, And you can say, well, Nailed's the only one that told us. Well, you know, Devin, you're on more on the manufacturer's side that actually has to pay these bills. We pay them indirectly, but you feel the heat. Would you say that most medium size or smaller lighting manufacturers dislike DLC and wish it would go away and have something different?
I mean, that comes from anybody that's got to pay somebody money. Yes, I mean that's even the network lighting control guys. I hear from them too. I talk to those guys as well. I mean, no one likes paying additional money for extra labeling, product certification. It's a necessary evil, is what we call it. We've owned that, and it's part of doing business. But it's not be like this doesn't make me feel a qualified product list. Is qualified product is got the guys in the shop that I love and we have fun and make products back there. I know that, and when I tell these guys the application where it's going into, there's just like you see their eyes go up, and that's what rewards me is building these products and having them be able to go into these applications and going out there. I mean, it's not like we're going to make crappy product. I mean,
Some people do, Greg. Some people
I'm not
make
going to
really.
sell anything
Some
with
do.
crappy product. That's a one. That's what we call. That's
You're cutting out
the
like crazy,
one-time
Dev.
buy.
You're cutting out like crazy there for a bit, but yeah, a lot of people make crappy product, Greg, and like what Devin said, like it's Devin, he's got his face right there in front of the factory. They know who made the fixture and who's responsible. But a lot of people, like Toronto's filled with dumped Chinese crappy LEDs. There's like, I would say hundreds of people, hundreds of different companies that have brought in container loads of cheap LED light fixtures, and they come into my counter. I brought in a box, Greg, the other day. It was all 4-inch flat panels with the drivers. Okay. And the guy's like, I bought these 3 years ago. And I said, yeah, that company's out of business, bud.
Yep.
And he's like,
Happens.
yeah, he's like, I ordered 3 different 4 inches from your website, and none of the cords are the same. And I
Yeah.
had to tell him, well, it's probably the driver anyway, bud. Like, most likely, it's the driver that's toast anyway. So here's 16 new ones where you have to change out the driver and the LED puck. And and this one other guy, this is another little anecdote. You know how sometimes they screw in the driver to the joist first and then put the sealing in and cut the holes after? So the
Mhm.
driver was screwed in and it was like a foot away from the hole. And
Gotta reach in.
they have to cut the ceiling out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Love it.
And so there's a lot of bad quality product. There's a lot of bad quality installations. And this is there. I think there's going to be a real decade of pain in the lighting industry, Devin. That the consumers are going to feel really ripped off by this. Like, what do you mean? The bulb doesn't last longer. The ballast doesn't last longer than the bulb. Whoever heard of that in lighting? The ballast doesn't last longer than the bulb, so you have to change the ballast more than you change the light bulb. That doesn't make any sense to anybody that's out there in maintenance and electricians and stuff like that. They all try to order, Devin, a new 4-inch flat panel to just change it like a light bulb. And we get calls, 3 or 4 calls like that every day. How are we going to move? How should the industry, Dev, where should it start with right to repair? You were talking about a new socket that you guys are working on down at Louvers, where you're really excited about it. I can't remember. What is the name of the socket that you're talking about?
Yeah, you're talking about the ANSI UL and IEC GJ 6.0, where it's now a globalized standard dedicated for TLED lamps. It doesn't need some new future technology, but the most important thing about this is it provides a ground to the actual lamp, which has never been accomplished before ever, because everybody's TLEDs work with a G13 lamp that was made for glass and gas. So this is a major issue that a lot of these utility companies are offering rebate incentives on TLED lamps that are actually unfit and not made for them. Is probably safety accredited approved, but that's just the part physically itself. We're still relying on installation errors. We all know the type A ballast compatible issues out there. The guy checks the first fixture, it's on the list. He doesn't check any other ballast in the retrofit. They're just popping lamps out
Nobody
and
would check
changing.
the
And that's
ballast. Nobody, nobody checks the ballast. It never gets checked. I'm going to tell you right now, Devin, from the streets, okay, of lighting retrofits, Greg. When you sell someone a Type A bulb, whether it's a CFL or and the problem is not with the T8 linears, Dev. The problem is with the CFLs. Because those ballasts, they have ranges, huge ranges, CFL ballasts. So you're striking that lamp with who knows how many amps or whatever, Greg. But I would say that I disagree with Devin on one point in that I think that there's nothing wrong with a G13 T8 LED, Greg, as long as it's off and on only. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think that whether it's type B or type A, I'm not going to say that it's unsafe, but what I will say, Greg, and see if you agree with me on this, is that when you ground LED lights, they dim way better. Everything that you want to do with that device in terms of controls, if you have a neutral on it, the dimming works way better. If the dimmer has a neutral and you're trying to dim LEDs, you want that neutral dimmer because it cleans out all the harmonic distortion from the electronics that the LED is made of, especially if you're going to be doing dimming. And you want to do controls, which is why I'm excited about the GJ16.6. What the heck? You keep cutting out there, Dad. What the hell is the name of this socket?
G6.6. And you are 100% correct on the ground, because that now allows you to have a protected, dedicated, isolated ground to the components within that lamp. And now that lamp can host whoever's controls on there, giving these end users the freedom to automatically go out and pick whatever platform they want to use in the sensor technology and then integrate into their building management system platforms. You can do whatever you want to with that. You're not changing out the whole fixture. You're popping in and out a lamp, which gives the free range to go. And especially when you have cradle to cradle full recyclability on that product line and just being a lamp in a safe fit
What's
system.
the name of the name of the product line? What's the name of the product, first of all?
For the snap fit lamp holders.
Is that what it's called? What's the name of it?
So you have the GJ 6.6 lamp holder system, where there's a bunch of different combinations from low voltage DC to 382 volts AC. So it covers that whole range of power. And then the lamp itself is made by Deltavation, and that's just a Delta lamp where it brings in 360 degrees of illumination, network controllability, and giving full circadian rhythm option, looking out there, just solving a problem that can be replaced in the field by anybody that can change out a lamp.
Right. So what you've developed Greg, I learned about 5 years ago that the neutral was the key to the success of dimming LEDs. So if you're out there right now and you're listening to this and you have trouble dimming LEDs, what you want to do is, when you're looking at the compatibility list, you want to pick the dimmer that has a ground and put that in, and make sure you ground a dimmer that has the neutral. And you want to pick that dimmer from the list that has the neutral, and you want to use that one, and you want to neutralize all those harmonics that are coming out of the lights. There's a friggin' pro tip for you right there, lighting dorks. That's the key to good controls for LEDs, is having a neutral on the dimmer and neutral involved in the lighting controls. That'll make everything work better. Dev, it's been a great adventure with you working on the nailed board and having you as a board member and creating an entire new category in nailed corporate structure just for you. We created the permanent ambassador role, and that was for vendors, and that would sort of add and help the past president's council. So thank you so much for your 4 years of service to the association, Devin. And you've had an amazing impact on the lighting industry, bud. I'm going to tell you that straight up right now. You're a gangster, buddy. And so people should, if you want to get things right, I mean, he's a bit of a wild man, Greg.
A bit in a good way. Yep.
But if he is absolutely a subject matter expert in the field of manufacturing LED light fixtures. So you should talk to him if you want to make things right for America. And guess what? When you guys make them right down there, we're going to copy you. That's exactly what Canada does. Right? Well, that's it. That's just off the standard. Yeah.
Well, thank you guys so much. You guys have.
Oh, you cut out again. What did you say? Say it again, Dev.
No, that's me choking up.
Oh,
not
choking
cutting out. That was an actual choking up.
Well,
no, you guys have done a lot for the lighting industry, and had mentors on that are no longer with us that helped me learn what I know today. And I mean, you guys are just awesome. I don't know why I'm getting so emotional right now because I have kids. You get kids, you get emotional. That's it. But and just great friends, and appreciate all the opportunities that have come my way just to help the industry get out, be better, and to be a part of everything. And just moving forward, I just, that's our goal, is just make Mother Earth happy, that we know that lighting is the only design that touches every surface. And we got to make sure we do that in the right way as lighting professionals, and to do it in a responsible way, that we're not creating this problem of, throwaway consumer electronics. We've addressed these issues and we're working on it. And, it's all because of everything that we've learned and putting that to action ourselves. And that's what we do, is putting things in action for the better of the industry, not waiting for someone to tell us to do. We're going to do what's right, what we think what's right for the industry ourselves. And we're going to take that leap of faith, because that's what we do as a small manufacturer. We got to get out there and fight every day and go up against everybody else. And we know that our hard work and dedication is going to help people out. And that's all we care about doing, is helping people out.
Love it.
And he wants to make a little bread on the side, too. Listen, if you need someone to help you with, especially if you have a very difficult heritage application, like a Main Street post top light that's a part of a historical facade of a city, and you need to retrofit that to LED, you need to go to Louvers, intl.com. You need to call Dev and the boys and Derek and Richard and the rest of the people down at Louvers International, because they are, I would say it's almost like a workshop. It's not really a factory, Greg. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Louvers it's kind of like a workshop. There is a factory in there, but they are making things. But there's something about it where it's a really unique vendor for distributors. So you got to go to Louvers, intl.com. And of course, the National Association of Innovative Lighting Distributors, that's NAILD.org. If you have light bulbs in a warehouse or light fixtures and you sell them over the counter, you go there and you join, and you give back to the industry that has given us all so much. And Devin, final thought to you, I'm going to say this. When we were talking about the 6 final series that we had to do, we said, Scott Griffin, Scott Wachter, Devin Wall. Those are on the list for sure.
Absolutely.
And you have made, like I said, man, you have made such a big impact. Ever since I passed out in your mother-in-law's house about 5 or 6 years ago.
What started
That
it
was
all?
like 7 years ago or 8. That's how time flies, though. It's,
Crazy.
whatever. That's what I also like, to have a lot of fun and laugh. If you smile and laugh, you're going to live longer.
Sure.
And that's the whole goal. Is I don't want to be dry, boring about stuff. I want to have fun with what I do, And that's what it's never been any work. These 19 years I've worked here, never been any work. It's all fun because I love what I do. Sure, you got problems. The end goal is greater, and I just like to have fun, make people laugh. I mean, that's memorable when they get to laugh, and we got funny stories hanging out with you guys. I got friends for life, and
Yeah, for
you know,
sure.
it's I just love what I do and get to have fun with what I do every day. It's not, fortunately, not a lot of people do that, but when you take your job seriously, and no matter what it is, and you put your best foot forward every day, good things will happen to you. People pick it, and they'll be more inclined to just do better. So I just say, whatever your job is, whatever your role is, own that to 100% and do your best job. Do the stuff. Take the trash out if it's full. Don't have anybody do it. Don't have anybody tell you. You just do it out of the curb. You just do that. I mean, you're going to be noticed, and good things are going to happen to you.
Makes sense.
Take the
Love
trash
it.
out. Take the trash out with Devin Wall. That's the name of
Love
the
it.
show.
Love
Bye
it.
bye for now.